Welcome to Sleep Tight Frights, the place where bedtime stories don't always end sweetly. I'm Evergrey, your storyteller in the shadows. Each tale is a little strange, a little spooky, and just creepy enough to keep you peeking over the covers. So settle in, close your eyes, but don't fall asleep just yet. Tonight's story begins with something small, something soft, something you might already have sitting at the edge of your bed, a toy, a comfort, a bedtime friend. But what if that plush wasn't just a toy? What if when the lights went out, it watched you sleep? And what if one night you reached out to touch it in a dream and something touched back? In this tale, a girl named Saydie wakes up with a white strand of hair in her hand, and each night after, something else comes a little closer to waking up in her place. So hold on tight to the things you trust, and make sure the ones that whisper your name are really your friends. This is Don't Pet the Pony. Saydie had never been afraid of ponies. She adored them. Her bedroom was a mix of stables and storybooks, shelves filled with glossy horse novels, a poster of a galloping black stallion over her bed, and her favorite treasure, a plush pony named Honey Blossom. Honey Blossom was small and pink, with shiny button eyes, silky hair that trailed from its mane and tail, and a heart stitched into one hoof. Her grandma had given it to her the day that she turned 6. Now that Saydie was 9, she didn't hug many stuffies anymore, but Honey Blossom still stayed on her bed, right by her pillow every night. So when she woke up and found Honey Blossom on the floor, twisted in a strange position, head tucked under, tail curled like it had been dropped from a great height, something in her stomach tightened. She sat up slowly. The room was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears listen harder. She leaned over the edge of her bed, picked up the plush pony and frowned. It felt damp. Just the snout, a little squishier than usual, like it had been held in someone's hand or mouth. She almost called for her mom. Almost. But that's when she saw the hoof prints, teeny ones, pressed gently into the carpet, starting right beside her bed and trailing towards the window. They were small, no bigger than a teacup, but sharp-edged and dark, like something had stepped through puddles before walking through her room. She glanced at her door. It was closed. Their dog, Daisy, hadn't come in. The window, though, the latch was unhooked. She hadn't opened it. Saydie stared at the hoof prints. 1, 2, 3, 4, each one placed carefully, perfectly spaced, not messy like paw prints, not soft like barefoot, just 4 neat little marks curving towards the curtain. She stepped out of bed slowly, her toes brushing the marks. She bent down and touched one with her finger. It was cold. "Mom," she called, but her voice was too soft, her mouth too dry. She padded to the door and peeked out. The hallway light buzzed faintly. Her mom was in the kitchen, humming and clicking dishes. By the time she returned with her, the hoofprints were gone, completely. Her mom looked confused when Saydie pointed at the carpet. "You sure you didn't dream that, honey?" "I touched one," Saydie whispered. "It was cold." Her mom raised an eyebrow and knelt by the window. "Maybe you got some water on the floor, or maybe Daisy did sneak in and step in something." "She doesn't have hooves," Saydie said. Her mom laughed. "True, but maybe you're part horse girl, part sleepwalker. Windows don't unlock themselves." Saydie wanted to argue, but she didn't. It was already clear no one believed her. Not about the prints, not about the weird way Honey Blossom had been lying, not about how damp the plushie still felt in her hands. That night, her mom brought in a fan to keep her cool and made sure the latch was secured. She even tucked Honey Blossom under Saydie's arm herself and kissed her goodnight. "Sweet dreams," she whispered. Saydie didn't answer, because part of her already knew something had been here, and it hadn't needed an invitation. Saydie didn't mean to fall asleep. She tried everything: flashlight under the covers, a comic book she'd already read 3 times, a bag of chocolate chips she wasn't supposed to keep in her nightstand drawer. She even pulled Honey Blossom off the bed entirely and placed it across the room facing the wall. But sleep had a way of finding you when something else was looking too. And something was. When her eyes finally closed, it wasn't the gentle kind of sleep that eased you into dreams. It was a drop, a pull, a sudden fall through velvet dark, like her bed had given out beneath her and left nothing to catch her but white grass. Soft, thread-like blades brushed against her knees as she stood alone in a meadow with no beginning and no end. At first she thought it was snow, but it didn't crunch, it didn't melt. It shimmered with a strange silvery glow, like strands of a spider's web laid across the earth. She looked up. No sky, not dark, not light, just blank, like the dream hadn't decided what kind of world it wanted to be in yet. The wind didn't blow, the grass didn't sway. There were no stars, no clouds, no shadows, no sound at all. Saydie took one hesitant step. The ground beneath her foot didn't feel like dirt. It felt like cloth, like the surface of a thick, endless quilt, or a stitched-together sheet no one could fold. She turned in a slow circle. There was nothing except half sunk in the grass was a shape, small, still, horse-shaped. Its head was bowed slightly. Its limbs looked too long for its full-sized body, as if it had been stretching just a bit too far. Silken strands of white hair clung to its sides like they were draped over it instead of growing from it. Underneath, the creature's skin was a pale pink, not healthy pink, not pony pink, translucent, almost glowing, like something that had never seen sunlight. It didn't move. Saydie's breath caught in her throat. If it was breathing, the motion was too slow to see. The movement was a slow drip of something wet from one of the hooves, like dew or drool or dream water. Its face, that's what made her knees wake. Its face had no features, no eyes, no nostrils, no mouth, just smooth skin stretched tightly over something rounded, like it had once had a face and someone had wiped it clean. Yet somehow she knew it was looking at her. Saydie tried to back away, but her feet didn't move. She looked down. Nothing was holding her. No vines, no quicksand, but her legs just didn't work. And her hand lifted, slow and strange, like someone else had taken control. "No," she whispered. But the word didn't echo here. It didn't even feel spoken. It vanished the second it left her lips. Still, she kept walking, step by step, through the white grass, closer to the thing that watched her with a face that couldn't see. She didn't want to touch it, but her arms kept lifting. And when she reached out, when her fingers brushed the space between its two small ears, the creature didn't flinch. It leaned into her hand, as if it had been waiting for her, as if it had been chosen. The hair beneath her fingertips was impossibly soft, not warm, not cold, just wrong, like touching the inside of a thought. In that moment, her brain said something in her own voice. If you put it in a dream, something else may wake up in your place. But it was too late. Saydie gasped awake. She sat up so fast her hair stuck to her face with sweat. The fan hummed, the curtains rustled. For a moment she thought, okay, just a dream. But then she looked at her hand. It was clenched tight. She didn't remember making a fist. Slowly, carefully, she opened it. Inside her palm lay a single, long strand of white hair. It shimmered faintly, like it still belonged to somewhere else. Not hers, not from Daisy, their dog, not from any blanket or toy she owned. She knew where it came from. The dream, the thing, the Cradlemare. She glanced around the room. Honey Blossom was not in her bed. Her eyes flicked towards the far corner. The desk chair, the plush pony was sitting upright on the cushion, perfectly balanced, facing her. The button eyes caught the moonlight in a way they never had before. And Saydie, still shaking, still clutching the strand, felt her breath stutter in her chest. Honey Blossom didn't move, but Saydie couldn't help the feeling that it just finished moving. Saydie used to be good at remembering things. She had the kind of brain that filed everything away like a neat little drawer. Homework, birthdays, locker combos, even what color socks she wore on Tuesday. But lately, things had been slipping. It started like a forgotten word mid-sentence. Then it turned into blank patches, like sections of her day were made of fog. She didn't tell anyone at first, not her mom, not her brother, not even Lena, because part of her was afraid that if she said it out loud, it would get worse. The first real scare happened on a Wednesday. She remembered brushing her teeth. She remembered zipping her hoodie and putting Honey Blossom in the middle of her bed so she wouldn't forget it was just a toy. Then she blinked, and she was in a cafeteria, standing in line with a tray in her hand. No memory of the bus, no memory of homeroom, just a sandwich, an apple, and chocolate milk staring at her. She stood frozen, tray trembling. "Saydie, move!" someone behind her hissed. She shuffled forward without speaking and sat alone. She stared at the sandwich like it might talk. Lena came up a minute later. "Where were you?" she asked, plopping down. "You totally zonked out in math. You were just staring." Saydie blinked. "I what?" "Miss Talbot asked you to answer the triangle question and you didn't even look up. She thought your earbuds were in." "I wasn't wearing earbuds." "I know. It was weird." Lena picked up her grapes, squinting. "You okay? You look pale." Saydie shrugged. "Maybe I'm sick." But she didn't feel sick, though. Just like pieces of her day were being peeled away while she wasn't watching. That night, she tried to do her science homework sheet at her desk. Halfway through the second question, she noticed her pencil had changed. It wasn't hers. It was too short, too chewed up. There was a name sketched into the wood in teeny, jagged letters, S-A-D. She dropped it instantly. Her mom called from the hallway. "Everything okay?" Saydie kicked the pencil under the desk. "Fine." Later, when she bent down to look for it again, it was gone. Thursday morning, she woke up with her socks on the wrong feet. Not inside out, backwards, heel pattern across the toes. They were damp, not sweat damp, not sock left on the radiator damp, cold and gritty, like they had been walking somewhere wet and muddy. She looked under her bed. More of those teeny specks of mud trailing from the corner to her closet. She opened the closet slowly, empty. The floorboards were damp, and her rain boots were gone from their usual place. She found them outside by the garden fence an hour later. Her mother thought she'd gone out early and left them there. "I didn't," she said. Her mom gave a small, tight smile and handed her a towel. "Sleepwalking, maybe?" Saydie wanted to scream. "No, something else. It's not me." But instead, she just dried her hands. That afternoon after school, Saydie dropped her backpack in her room and froze. Honey Blossom wasn't on the bed, not on the chair, not on the shelf. She found the plush pony on the windowsill, propped upright, button eyes fixed outward. The latch was unhooked, even though her mom had said she locked it that morning. Saydie slowly reached out and picked up the toy. It was warm, not sun-warmed, not dryer warm, warm like a small animal, like breath. She squeezed it gently. It gave a small, soft creak, not from beans or fluff, but something stiff inside. She lifted it to her ear and held her breath and heard it, a faint sigh. Then a teeny click, like a hoof striking wood. Saydie flinched and dropped the toy. It landed face up, and when she bent to pick it up, she realized the seams were different. They seemed tighter, pulled wrong. The thread across the belly had a new stitch, a slightly darker one, crooked, like a patch someone had added by hand. She didn't remember sewing anything, and neither did her mom. That night, she tried facing the door again. She kept the lights on. She even set her alarm to wake her every hour. But at some point, it got past her, the sleep, the dream, and something in between, because when she jerked away at 2:12 a.m., she was no longer in bed. She was standing in the hallway, barefoot, and the floor beneath her feet was wet. She turned slowly towards her bedroom. Her door was wide open. Inside, Honey Blossom sat in the center of her bed, alone, smiling. Saydie backed away, trembling, and as she did, she felt something clutched in her fist. She looked down. It was the white hair again, only this time there were 2 strands, and both were longer than before. Saydie tried to throw Honey Blossom away. She told herself it was just a toy, just stitched fabric and stuffing, no different than the dozens of other plush animals she'd outgrown and tucked into bins under her bed. But she couldn't just keep pretending. Not after waking up in the hallway, not after finding the extra strand of hair in her fist, not after hearing it whisper her name. So after school, she stuffed Honey Blossom into an old grocery bag and marched out to the garbage bin beside the garage. It took 3 tries to get her hands to let go, but she did it. Dropped the bag inside, slid the lid, and ran back to her room without looking back. That night, she slept without a fan. No comics, no flashlight, just silence. And finally, no dreams. The next morning, Honey Blossom was on her pillow. Not stained, not wrinkled, not even dusty, just waiting. Saydie didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared at it, her heart beating so loudly she couldn't hear anything else. Her mom peeked in. "Oh, you found Honey Blossom. I saw her outside yesterday and thought maybe Daisy dragged her off." Saydie didn't respond. She couldn't, because now the plush pony smelled like earth, like leaves and damp roots, and its ears twitched when her mom walked away. The whispering started again that night. She wasn't dreaming, not yet. She was still reading in bed, eyes open, wide awake when she heard it. A soft breath, like wind through a cracked door, and then, "Saydie." The voice didn't come from the hallway. It came from beside her, from Honey Blossom. She turned her head slowly. The plush was facing her, button eyes locked on. Its mouth was stitched shut, but she could hear it, not with her ears, with something inside her head. "Saydie, stay close." She grabbed it and threw it across the room. It hit the closet door and flopped on the floor. Silence. No breath, no voice. Saydie pulled the blanket over her head and pressed her palms over her ears. But a moment later, it came again. This time, right by her ear. "You're getting hollow." She burst from bed, turned on every light. She left Honey Blossom where it had fallen. The whispers didn't stop, even when she plugged in her headphones, even when she ran the tap bathroom. The voice was inside her now, just like the fog, just like the gaps. The next day, Saydie couldn't focus. Not just because she was tired, because she couldn't remember things she should have known. She forgot how to spell her own name during a pop quiz. She forgot which bus to take home. When her teacher called on her to answer a question, she opened her mouth and nothing came out, just air. Lena pulled her aside at recess. "You're scaring me," she said. "Are you okay?" Saydie wanted to say no, wanted to say, "There's a horse thing in my dreams, and I think it's taking pieces of me." But instead she said, "Just tired." The lie tasted rotten in her mouth, like dirt, like silk, like loss. That evening, Keaton, her brother, knocked gently on her bedroom door. Her older brother never came to talk to her on his own, not unless he wanted something. She was sitting on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees, staring at Honey Blossom in the corner. He shut the door behind him. "Where'd you get that toy again?" he asked, nodding towards it. "Grandma gave it to me," she whispered. He hesitated. "I used to have one like that." Saydie looked up. He sat on the bed. Same eyes, same little heart stitched on its hoof. "I had it until I was maybe 9. What happened?" He looked uncomfortable. "I started having dreams about a pony." Saydie froze. It looked small, but it wasn't. It followed me into a dream meadow. I thought it was cute. I pet it. He met her eyes. I shouldn't have. Saydie felt cold. It got inside things. My drawings changed. My toys whispered. I started forgetting stuff, too. Important stuff, like the color of our front door. My own birthday. I told Mom I lost the plush. "But you didn't?" Keaton shook his head. "I buried it in the backyard." Saydie swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "Because I didn't want it to follow me again." He nodded towards Honey Blossom. "I think it's found a new name." That night, Saydie tried locking the toy in her closet, but when she woke, it was in her arms and whispering in her own voice. Saydie stopped brushing her hair, not because she forgot how, but because she was afraid of what she might find tangled in it. The second strand of white hair she'd woken up with had been longer than the first, and last night, after another whisper-filled sleep, she'd found a third. This one had been wrapped around her wrist, tied like a thread, and when she tried to pull it off, clung, like it didn't want to let go. At school, things got even worse. Lena didn't sit beside her anymore. Not out of meanness, out of confusion. Saydie didn't laugh when she used to, didn't smile back, didn't always answer when spoken to. It wasn't on purpose, it just happened. Like her body kept moving while something deeper inside stayed behind. She started carrying sticky notes in her pocket, little reminders of things she used to know. Locker number 214. Favorite color? Green. Mom's name? Renee. My name? Saydie. She wasn't joking when she wrote that last one, because sometimes when people called her in the hall, she didn't turn, not right away. And once, just once, she passed a window at school. Her reflection didn't move. She'd been walking fast, trying to keep her head down, but her reflection in the grass by the water fountain stayed still and smiling. That night, she avoided mirrors. She brushed her teeth with her eyes closed. She draped a hoodie over the mirror on her closet door. But the bathroom mirrors downstairs, she forgot about that one. She turned to wash her hands, and there it was. Her, but not her. It blinked when she didn't. It tilted its head the wrong way. And when she opened her mouth to scream, her reflection mouthed something different. Not help, but let me. She backed away slowly, her whole body buzzing like static. She didn't close the door behind her. She couldn't bring herself to turn her back. She tried to tell Keaton the next morning, but the words got tangled in her throat. He sat at the breakfast table, chewing toast and scrolling his phone, and Saydie opened her mouth to say it, to finally say all of it. I think something's replacing me. But all she said was, do you ever feel like your body isn't all yours? Keaton looked up. For a second, the crumbs stopped moving in his mouth. Then he nodded, slowly. Yeah, he said. When I had it, I used to feel like I was the one wearing the costume. Like someone else was under the zipper. Sadie's skin prickled. It gets worse, he added. How do you stop it? His jaw tightened. I didn't. I just gave it to you. Saydie stared. He wouldn't meet her eyes. I thought if it had someone else's name, it would leave me alone. You gave me Honey Blossom on purpose? No, he said. I didn't give you the toy, I got rid of it. I buried it. He looked at her finally. But if it came back, it's not a toy anymore. Saydie didn't go to school that day. She stayed in bed, wrapped in every blanket she had, trying not to move, trying not to dream. She clutched a notebook to her chest, flipping through the pages every hour just to remember who she was. She started writing things down that no one could tell her, things only she would know. I chipped my tooth on a swing when I was 5. I hate the color mustard. I used to hum to the ceiling when I couldn't sleep. That night, she dreamed again. But this time, she didn't walk. She didn't stand. She hovered, watching from above. She saw herself sleeping in bed, peacefully, still, and the Cradlemare, silk-skinned, smooth-faced, stood beside her bed, legs curled under like a cat. Its head was bent low, not watching, whispering into her ear, every word pressed deeper, echoing in Saydie's bones, even from the dream. And then the thing in her bed opens its eyes. The reflection's eyes, not hers, not really. The reflection's eyes smiled wrong voice. And when the Cradlemare turned its head to look at her, up into the dream, into the place where Saydie floated, it mouthed something, a single word, almost. She woke up gasping, sweating. Her face was wet, not with tears, with breath. Something had just been near her mouth. She reached out and fumbled for her notebook. She flipped to the last page and scrawled with shaky hands. I am Saydie. I am still here. But when she looked at her handwriting, it didn't look quite like hers, and the pen was still warm. The next morning, Saydie couldn't speak. She tried to say good morning to her mom. Nothing came out. Tried to answer her brother when he asked if she wanted toast. Her mouth open, but no sound. Her voice was gone, not scratchy, not sore, just empty, like something had reached in and pulled the string that made it hers. She sat at the kitchen table staring at her notebook. It still said her name, but the letters looked more crooked than before, like they'd been written by someone pretending to be her. That was the moment Saydie knew. She didn't have any more time. After school, after pretending to be sick, after hiding in her room while her mom called the attendance line, Saydie did what she had to do. She packed a bag. Inside she put 3 strands of white hair, the notebook that held her name, a small jar of salt from the kitchen, a flashlight, and Honey Blossom. She didn't cry when she touched the toy this time. She didn't whisper to it or ask it to stop. She just wrapped it in a towel and stuffed it in the bottom of the bag because she had a plan. She'd return it, all of it. She didn't know if it would work, but something inside her whispered, not a Cradlemare whisper, but something deeper, something hers. You must give it back or be replaced. She waited until her mom was in the bath, then slipped out the back door with her coat zipped to her chin. The backyard was damp with rain. The trees creaked in the wind. The clouds hung low and thick, like the whole world was being tucked into bed. Saydie marched past the garden, past the broken bird feeder, and stopped at the back corner of the yard, beneath the oldest tree, a black-barked willow. It had long, weeping branches that brushed the ground like a curtain. It was the kind of place kids made dares about, the kind of tree no one climbed twice. Keaton had once said that when he had the Cradlemare, he'd buried the plush toy here. Maybe it was the same one, maybe they were all the same one. Saydie dropped to her knees and dug with her hands. The ground was soft and cold. She didn't care that her fingers went numb, didn't care that her nails split on roots. She dug until there was a hole the size of a shoebox. Then she unwrapped Honey Blossom. It looked the same, except the stitching along its side had split open just a little, enough to show that something inside was watching. Saydie didn't flinch. She took the notebook, she took the 3 white hairs, she poured the salt around the edge of the hole, and then, one by one, she placed everything inside. When it was done, she placed her hands together, closed her eyes, and whispered, not out loud because her voice was still gone, but in her mind, "You are not mine. I do not want you. I return what I never meant to take." The wind stopped. Dead still. No rustling leaves, no crickets, no sound of cars or neighbors or planes overhead. The whole yard went silent, as if the world itself were listening. Then, somewhere behind her, a single hoofprint. She didn't turn. She couldn't. She placed her hands to cover the dirt, shaking as she pressed it down. "You are not mine. I do not want you. I give you back." Another hoof step, closer. The ground shivered beneath her knees. The air thinned, like something was trying to pull her backward into the dark, but she kept going. "You cannot stay in my name. You cannot stay in my face. You cannot stay in my place." A third hoof step. Right behind her, she turned her head just a little and saw a shadow in the shape of a foal made of silk and thread and nothing. Watching, waiting. It didn't speak, it didn't move, it just stared. Saydie swallowed hard. "I see you," she whispered. The first real words her voice had managed all day, and then she said it again, louder. "I see you." The Cradlemare blinked for the first time, and then it stepped backwards into the willow's curtain of branches and vanished, like it had never been there at all. Saydie stood slowly. Her hands ached, her eyes stung, but her notebook still sat in her pocket, and when she opened it, her handwriting was back, and at the top of the page in shaky letters, "My name is Saydie. I am still here." Saydie slept without dreaming for the first time in weeks. No endless white meadow, no breath beside her cheek, no silk-haired thing standing at her bedside, just sleep, deep and blank and quiet. When she opened her eyes the next morning, it was the sunlight, real sunlight, warm on her face, pooling across her comforter in gold puddles. She sat up slowly, waiting, listened. No whispers, no toys in her arms, just her, still there, still Saydie. She slipped her notebook from under her pillow and flipped to the last page. The writing was hers again. The letters were messy and rushed, but steady. They belonged to her fingers, her thoughts. She touched her name with the tip of her finger and whispered it out loud. Saydie. Her voice came back, soft but strong, like it had been waiting for permission to return. And somewhere deep inside, something curled and hungry let go. At school, things weren't quite normal. Lena asked if she was feeling better. Saydie smiled, really smiled, for the first time in days. Her teacher handed her back a quiz she didn't remember taking. The name on the top was hers, but the answers were wrong, all of them, written in mirrored letters, as if someone had filled it out with the memory of a hand, but not the mind that guided it. Saydie didn't correct it. She tucked it into her backpack and said nothing. That night, her mother knocked on her door. "I watched your bedding today and found this under your pillow," she said, holding something out. Sadie's heart dropped. It was Honey Blossom, clean, folded neatly in her arms, no ripped seam, no thread out of place. Saydie blinked. "I thought I threw it out," she whispered. Her mom laughed. "Saydie, this thing's been on your bed since you were 6. Saydie stared at it. It didn't whisper, it didn't move. It just lay there, soft and still. Her mom placed it on the dresser and kissed her goodnight. The door clicked shut. Saydie didn't touch it. She watched it for a very long time, until her eyes grew heavy. In her dreams, the white field was gone. In its place stood something darker, a stitched black hill rising from velvet soil under a stormless sky, and at the top of the hill, another child. A girl Saydie didn't recognize, holding a plush pony in her arms. The child looked over her shoulder, eyes wide and lost. She didn't speak, she didn't move, and behind her, a shadow, 4-legged, faceless, waiting, watching. Not gone, just elsewhere. Saydie woke with a jolt. Her room was dark and the air was still. She looked to the dresser. Honey Blossom still sat where her mom had placed it, but its head was tilted a little differently now, and next to it, on the wood surface, was a single strand of white hair. Saydie didn't scream. She didn't run. She got out of bed, picked up the hair, and walked to her window. She opened it, held the hair in the breeze, and whispered, "You're not mine. Not anymore." The wind took the strand and carried it into the night, far, far away. Or maybe not far enough. She climbed back into bed, pressed her face to the pillow, and as she drifted off, one final thought slipped through her mind. I am Saydie. I am still here. But beneath that voice, for just a breath of a second, she heard another whisper. For now. Did you know the word nightmare isn't just about bad dreams? It comes from ancient folklore, stories passed down across Europe where a mare wasn't a horse at all. It was a spirit, often shaped like a small creature or twisted animal, that would sit on your chest while you slept. That crushing, frozen feeling, that was the mare, stealing your breath, your voice, your sense of self. But not all mares were content to simply sit. Some legends whispered about the Cradlemare, a younger spirit, small and silent, who visited children in their sleep. It didn't smother you, it studied you, it learned your patterns, and if you invited it in, even in the dream, it would slip inside your life like a foot into a slipper. You'd still wake up, but something else might wake up too. And if it learns your name, if it speaks in your voice, how would anyone know it's not you? So if you ever find a white hair on your pillow or a toy you don't remember loving suddenly sitting closer each night, don't pet it, don't whisper it, and whatever you do, don't give it a name. And that was Don't Pet the Pony, a soft step into the kind of nightmare that doesn't end when you open your eyes. If you're still clutching your stuffed animal a little tighter, you're not alone. Sometimes the things we love most just might be loving us back in ways we don't understand. Or worse, watching, waiting, whispering. If this story gave you shivers, please do us a favor. Like the episode, share it with a brave friend or someone who still sleeps with the lights on, and leave a comment or review to tell us what you think woke up in your place. It helps more listeners discover Sleep Tight Fright, and it means the world to those of us who love spinning creepy tales just for you. You can follow us on Instagram at Sleep Tight Frights.
Thank you for listening to Sleep Tight Frights. It means more than you know, to us and to the things that listen back. I'm Ever Gray, your guide through the shadows, and if you felt something was watching as the story unfolded, you're not alone. They remember the ones who listen, they wait for the ones who return. So come back soon. Sleep tight if you can.